Hello, and welcome to Issue 2 of Sentinels of the Multiverse. In this episode, the team of Haka, the Visionary, Fanatic, and Tempest will be fighting Omnitron in Megalopolis. Omnitron is basically an artificial intelligence that has sort of gone crazy and taken over a robotics factory. As opposed to Baron Blade, who I fought last episode, who only flips once a game, Omnitron flips every turn, and on each side plays additional cards in one of two ways. So you'll have plenty of chances to see how he works on both sides. Haka is probably the most straightforward damage-dealing character in the game. His base power does 2 melee damage, and a lot of his other cards do melee damage as well. Visionary is probably the character I understand least of the characters in the base game. She has a little bit of damage potential, but mostly manipulates decks or redirects damage. Fanatic is a damage dealer who also can do quite a bit of damage to herself. Her base power is a little more unique in that it does one each of 2 different types of damage. So if the damage can be boosted, that makes it more effective than the standard powers, but if damage is decreased, that reduces her effectiveness more than the others. Tempest is a utility character who does lots of area of effect damage, but also has a good amount of ongoing and environment control. So let's go ahead and get started. Omnitron's deck has a lot of drone targets in it. Oh, and Electropulse Explosive first turn. Yeah, that's fun. But in addition to having to destroy him, the heroes can't win the game until all of his drones are destroyed. Now, just to let you know how much trouble I'm in right off the bat, his Electropulse Explosive starts with 15 hit points, and at the start of the villain turn, deals each hero target damage equal to its current hit points, so I've got to hit that hard and fast. This repair drone heals Omnitron by the number of drones in play plus 1, so probably not a big problem at this point. Okay, Haka has a damage-dealing one-shot. One of his 2 weapons, which deals the same 2 damage as his melee, as his base power, but also allows him to draw a card. He has the ongoing Punish the Weak, which boosts his damage to the target with the least hit points at the expense of reducing it to the target to any other target. So, not something I want to play at this point, but it could be useful for cleanup later on. Then Tayaha, his other weapon, deals 2 targets 3 melee damage each, so I should go ahead and play that now to do as much damage as possible. And I'll be hitting the Electropulse Explosive, obviously. And then I will go ahead and hit the Repair Drone just to soften it up so that Tempest's power can take it out. And a Haka of Restoration. Probably won't need that yet, but that'll depend on how much damage the Electropulse Explosive does. Okay, Visionary's base power, which I forgot to mention earlier, allows any character to draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. And her opening hand has a decoy projection that takes damage targeted at her until it's destroyed. Demoralization that does each villain target 1 damage at the start of her turn. Could be useful, but I have better options at the moment. Precognition, which lets her look at the top 3 cards of the villain deck and choose which one to have on the top, and then move the others to the bottom, which will be very useful, but not the immediate thing. And then Rest the Mind, which I think I'll probably be playing. Play it next to a target other than a character card, and you can do 3 damage to that target and Visionary herself to redirect that damage to another target. So, say, play it on the Electropulse Explosive, and then don't worry about hitting it as much, because I can redirect that damage to Omnitron. And let's check the other 2 characters' opening hands so I can see who will get the most use out of Visionary's power. Okay, Fanatic has an option, but she's probably a pretty good choice to redirect, and Tempest is good as well. So I will use the base power on Fanatic because she can always use more cards. Okay. Another Embolden and a Chastise. Okay, so it looks like I would have 2 different options for dealing with that Electropulse Explosive, but I'll go ahead and get rid of one of the Emboldens, and I got one of Visionary's few damage dealers. Okay, I am not going to target the Electropulse Explosive now, as I have a way of coping with it. But I will play Brutal Censure, which is a one-shot that does 2 radiant damage. And I'll start hitting Omnitron. And draw another Divine Sacrifice. And I just realized I did not go over the cards of Fanatic's opening hand. She has Aegis of Resurrection, which, if she's about to be incapacitated, restores her to 10 hit points, which has saved games for me on occasion. Chastise is a card you play next to a non-hero target other than a character card, and basically you put it away in a box where it can't deal or take damage, and at the start of each turn, Fanatic has to take damage to maintain the box. Divine Sacrifice allows Fanatic to do 3 targets, 1 irreducible radiant damage, which is always useful. It doesn't prevent stuff that says cannot take damage, like the mobile defense platforms, but it means that basic reduction stuff doesn't work, and damage dealt by those targets is redirected to Fanatic until the start of your next turn, which isn't as big of a deal because she has some cards that trigger off of how much damage she has taken. Embolden lets a hero character use an additional power during their power phase, which could be useful later on. But at the end of that hero's turn, Fanatic has to deal them damage to keep it going. And I will go ahead and use Fanatic's base power to hit Omnitron again and start wearing him down. And let's see here. Tempest's opening hand is Chain Lightning, which does reducing damage to 3 different targets. Cleansing Downpour, which gives him a power to heal everyone. Very useful later on in the game. Elemental Subwave Inducer that changes the type of damage Tempest does and reduces damage to him of that type by 1 until the start of the next turn. Then Otherworldly Resilience, which is a straight-up damage reduction card, and is what I will play. Tempest's base power does all non-hero targets 1 projectile damage, so I'll go ahead and use that. And that will destroy the repair drone, in addition to hurting the other 2 targets. And the Infernal Relics expansion I mentioned earlier has come out. Even though I'm not using any characters or environments from it at this point, there will be signs of that, of updates related to that later on. And with the way the Megalopolis environment works, it has a lot of cards like this traffic pile-up that like players can't draw cards, players can't use powers. This has the advantage of being a target that I can destroy as necessary. And now the Electropulse Explosive has activated and will be doing 11 damage to everyone. Well, until I say, okay, let's use Rest of the Mind to redirect that damage to Omnitron. And then it does 3 damage each to the Explosive and Visionary, so it's ever decreasing damage. Let's go with Haka next and redirect the damage to Omnitron again. And now that it's reduced the amount of damage it's done to 5, I think I will let it do the, 4 damage to Tempest and 5 to Fanatic, since she has ways of both healing and of making use of being lower than full hit points. And Omnitron gets an automation drone that does damage equal to its hit points and plays the repair bot back from its trash. Since this is still the end of turn, the repair bot still works. And now that everything is lower, I will go ahead and play Punish the Weak and just smash the 2 new drones. And since they're tied, I have to choose whether it's considered to have the lowest hit points. There could be reasons to say it doesn't, however, not really this time. And I can't draw cards because of the traffic pile-up. So now I believe I will take a look at the villain deck and see what's out there. Okay, Sedative Flechettes are really bad. They'll do each target, I think 5 projectile damage and destroy all ongoings. Not ideal. Terraforming destroys environment cards and plays villain cards equal to the number of environment cards destroyed, which could be 2 at this point, or Disintegration Ray that is one of Omnitron's components. Components typically have an effect at the start of the turn, and if Omnitron is dealt 7 or more damage in a round, go away, so that's probably my best bet to leave on the top, and I really don't like Sedative Flechettes, so I'll put those at the very bottom. And I'll go ahead and use Visionary's power on herself to get more options for, or not, because I forgot about traffic pileup affecting that. I could just discard a card if I had one I knew I wasn't going to use, but since that was an honest mistake, I will back up to the beginning of Visionary's use a power phase and skip. That's something that I would have caught on to if I was playing the physical game, so I have no problems with doing that. Okay, we still want to get rid of the Electropulse Explosive, which means I'll need to reduce it by 1 or 2 hit points. But actually, I don't need to, and I will edit this out. It's a little early to use the Aegis of Resurrection, even though getting it out would be useful. So I will play Embolden on Haka, since he has 2 damage-dealing powers at this point and could have a 3rd by the time we get around to this. And I will hit the traffic pile up because I have other ways of dealing with finishing off the Electropulse Explosive. Sorry for any extra background noise. Unlike the last couple episodes, one of my cats is interfering. And I'll go ahead and play this Chain Lightning, which does 4 damage to one target, then 3 to another, and 2 to the one after that. I'll do the 4 damage to Electro Pulse Explosive to set it up to be finished off. Then 3 to the Traffic Pile Up. And 2 to Omnitron, because he's not going away anytime soon. And then use the base power to deal all of them 1 damage to finish off the bomb. And still can't draw another card, which would be useful for Tempest at this point. But hopefully by his turn, I will get back around to that. And just to make things even more interesting, hostage situation, and heroes can't play cards. So Omnitron played the Disintegration Ray, big surprise there. And then on this side, he just plays the top card of his deck, which is an Assault Drone who does damage related to the number of drones in play. But won't last long. Okay, can't play cards, but I can use powers. So I will use the Tiaha to finish off the Traffic Pile Up, thanks to Punish the Weak. And smash the Assault Drone. Now, if you remember, I played Embolden on Haka last turn, which you can see over here behind his card. So I will use the second power that allows to hit Omnitron as well. For 3, thanks to Punish the Weak. And now I have to decide, and now I can draw cards again, and have to decide whether to allow Fanatic to deal Haka damage, and I believe I will, because he's still good on hit points, and it's always good to have him dealing damage. Okay, now back to Fanatic, who can't play cards, but to Visionary, who can't play cards, but can draw cards, or let someone draw cards at least. And I will let Haka draw cards, because he has some stuff that he can discard a bunch of cards to do extra damage, or heal, or reduce damage to him. And Savage Mana is a card that I'll probably get into next turn, which basically lets him eat the cards he destroys, which will be a lot, since he has Punish of the Weak out, and most of Omnitron's targets are 4 hit points, and then pop them back out as damage later on. Fanatic just has one option, since she can't play cards, and will do damage to Omnitron. And I believe we are at 5 damage to Omnitron now, so I need to do 2 more damage to him to get rid of the Disintegration Ray before it can deal damage. But I can confirm that here. Yes, 5 damage. And I can't play cards, so I guess I'm not going to be doing 6 damage, unfortunately. So someone's going to get hit by that Disintegration Ray, unless something comes out from the environment that can hit Omnitron, which is quite possible. There are, if nothing else, 2 police backup cards in the deck. But first, we have to decide whether to get rid of Hostage Situation, which is kind of no decision to make there. I'll go ahead and get rid of the Haka of Restoration for Haka. Visionary will get rid of the Decoy Projection. Fanatic will get rid of one of the Divine Sacrifices. I don't use those all that much because there are a lot of ways that that can go very badly wrong. And Tempest will get rid of the Elemental Subwave Inducer. And Rooftop Combat. Increase all damage dealt by 1. Okay, that is problematic at first, but will be useful later on. And there we go. 6 damage to Haka because the Disintegration Ray is out. And then another Sedative Flechettes comes out, unfortunately. Especially since they're all getting damage boost to 6. It's a bit problematic, but I'm still in pretty good shape. Okay, only 5 damage to Tempest, at least. And then that destroys all of the ongoing cards, fortunately, after the damage was dealt to Tempest. Now to try to get you guys a better shot of rooftop combat, it gets rid of all other environment cards, so it ends up I didn't need to discard the cards. And if once hero targets deal a non-hero 10 or more damage in a single round, it goes away. And the assault drone comes back. But that won't last long. Unfortunately, I got rid of my spare Punish the Weak, so I won't be able to flat out destroy the assault drone, but I will go ahead and use the Tiaha anyway. But I do get the bonus damage from rooftop combat, so bye-bye assault drone. And now I have the option of putting it under Savage Mana, which also has the advantage of keeping it out of the discard pile so it can't get played again, which I will do. That both keeps it out of the trash and means that I can stack up a bunch of cards in here and then do damage equal to twice the number of cards under here and get rid of them. Which is why a lot of people call it Haka eating the minions and then throwing them back up at the guy since it does toxic damage. Let's just look at Suggestion, which is one of the cards that came up that I haven't gone over yet. I can select 2 cards from the villain trash and put one on the top of the deck and one on the bottom, which is very useful in controlling what comes out next. So I could, for example, and this is what I think I will do, put the repair drone on top so it comes out at the start of the next turn, and put the Electropulse Explosive on the bottom so that copy of it, at least, doesn't come out again the rest of the game. There are keyboard shortcuts, but I have to move the keyboard out of the way for my microphone, so I won't use them all that much at this point. And it's easier for you guys to keep track of what I'm doing that way. And Visionary will use her power on herself. As I said, I don't understand the real guts of the way Visionary works as well as other cards. So my new cards were another Precognition and a Mass Levitation, which reduces damage dealt by environment cards, which there are only a couple cards in the environment that do a lot of damage, so not a big deal. And now I want to do damage, and some healing wouldn't be bad, so Holy Nova is probably my best bet. It does each non-hero target 1 radiant damage, which will actually be 2 at the moment, and heals all my guys for 1. So go ahead and play that. That becomes 2 damage, which I believe puts us at 5 on Omnitron. Oh, 6. So he's definitely going to lose the Disintegration Ray now, and you'll see what I mean about how effective damage boosts are for Fanatic. You see, the 1 melee damage becomes 2, and 1 radiant damage becomes 2. She has another card that does a flat 3 damage, which is better if there are no damage boosts in play. If there's 1, they're about the same, but if there are 2 damage boosts, such as Rooftop Combat and Legacy from last game, her base power becomes more useful. And Omnitron is down to 60. That is 10 damage as well, so Rooftop Combat goes away, but was useful in getting that damage out and getting rid of the component. If I hadn't, I could have used Into the Stratosphere to put it back on top of the villain deck and do some damage, which I can't really do now. Chain Lightning would be a waste with only 1 target out, So I'll play Cleansing Downpour and use that to heal all my guys for 2 rather than doing 1 damage to Omnitron. Tempest does have some good damage boosts that just haven't come out this game that would have made it 3 damage to Omnitron, for example, and in that case I might have done that instead. And the environment does Cramped Quarters Combat. Change all damage types to melee and increase all damage by 1. It goes away at the start of the next environment turn. And Omnitron flips again, plays the repair drone we knew was there, and then I believe this is the side where he plays another card. The Electromagnetic Railgun, another component that does damage at the start of his turn, if it gets the opportunity to. Okay, the card that I drew this last time was Rampage, which Haka deals each non-hero target 5 melee damage and each hero target 2 melee damage, which Punish the Weak would be useful now to make that 1 damage for all hero targets. However, there aren't really enough targets out to justify that, so I will play Tomoko, which is Haka's basic damage reducer. Damage is boosted again, so he'll go ahead and eat the repair drone. And then smack Omnitron again. This game is more consistently paced than Baron Blade, where you basically have to hurry up to get him flipped off his first side, and then he's okay for the next one. Let's do some more deck manipulation with Visionary, Precognition. Okay, 3 different types of drones. The Assault Drone does the least damage of the 2 damage dealers, and I'll go ahead and go with that one rather than the Repair Drone for more healing, since I have an easy healer. Easy way to heal damage at this point. And I believe that Fanatic could use some more options. Undaunted is her big damage reducer. And End of Days basically nukes everything except cards with the relic keyword, which at this point we're too set up to really make ideal use of. Twist the Ether is one of Visionary's more complicated cards that can be used to change damage types and reduce or increase damage depending on the situation. And Sanctifying Strike is not a particularly damaging card, but it also allows drawing and healing, so not a bad choice here. And then Fanatic can use her base power to do 4 damage again because of the, in this case, all melee damage because of the boost. And you can see, once the railgun goes away, that it also shows an effect of the damage type changing. Oh, and I didn't realize you could click on that to bring up the card. That'll be a useful thing to remember. Okay, and Into the Stratosphere can only be used for villain cards, so no point in playing it now. Electrical Storm, which I just drew, allows Tempest to do everyone 1 lightning damage at the start of each of his turns, so go ahead and put that out. Not useful till next turn, but go ahead. I have two heroes that are above that are at 20 hit points or above, but 1 damage to Omnitron won't be all that helpful. So go ahead and heal some more. See, this is what makes Tempest useful. He has some good damage powers, but he also has some good utility powers like Cleansing Downpour and ongoing and equipment and environment destruction. But Close quarters combat destroyed itself, and here comes the big damage card from this environment. The plummeting monorail. And that has effect at the start of the turn to give you around to destroy it. It does 5 damage each to the two targets, hero or villain, with the highest hit points. So right now, it would be hitting Omnitron. Okay, since 2 drones came out, the assault drone is doing 3 damage. I'll go ahead and have him do that damage to Tempest of the 2 options with the highest hit points, so that the higher damage is done to Fanatic. Okay, and Haka will play his elbow smash to just do some more damage. I don't have a damage boost to be able to just flat out destroy drones with Tiaha, but this will let me destroy that one to pile under Savage Mana, and then I will hit the monorail to start wearing it down, even though I might keep it out for a round to hit Omnitron. And Haka's sort of secondary ability is doing stuff with the environment. The card that he just drew is one of the ways he does. He can use the environment in that he can redirect damage from being dealt to any hero by the environment to him. He also has one that lets him draw a card every time an environment card is destroyed. And just to make the monorail as useful as possible, I'm going to play Twist the Ether on it, which you will see that's effect once it starts doing damage. And I have not used Visionary's power on Tempest yet, so I'll go ahead and let him draw and discard. And there are his Gene-Bound Shackles, which will boost the damage he does to whatever non-hero target has the highest hit points. So Shielding Winds is pretty useful. It can reduce damage to any hero target when a lot of damage is being done. But it's not exactly what I'm looking for at the moment. Okay, it looks like anyone but Fanatic will have the highest hit points once once the monorail damage is being done, so that's not as useful. I'll go ahead and get the assault drone to start wearing it down. And then go ahead and destroy it. It's kind of weird that I haven't gotten Fanatic's Sword yet, which is her other card that gives her a power. But, hey, this can work too. And another Smite the Transgressor, which won't really be useful until I get another power for her to use. Electrical Storm, as I said, hits everyone for 1. Well, all non-hero targets at least. And I've got to put out these Gene-Bound Shackles now, so I can show you how that works. And just to show you how it works, I'll go ahead and pick the order manually, which can be useful if you have a lot of targets that are close to each other in damage. See, this boosts damage to Omnitron to 3, but damage to the plummeting monorail will remain 1. If I, say, had 2 targets that are within a couple hit points of each other, I could sort of do them in a specific order to say, okay, I did damage to this one, now this other one's the highest hit points. Okay, since all 3 of these guys are tied for how much damage from how much health they have, I have to choose which one of them is second highest for the monorail. And if I remember correctly, Haka has damage reduction out, so I'll do that. But you see, it doesn't show the math for that because I have to make choices for Twist the Ether. Might as well deal the damage to Omnitron first. And then this is one of the new enhancements in the expansion actually giving the icon for which type of damage when you have to choose the damage type. And let's make that infernal, since you guys have not seen that animation before. And since it's going to a villain target, increase the damage by 1. Now I have to make the same choice for doing damage to Haka, but I'll reduce the damage by 1. So he only takes 3 from this. And paparazzi on the scene. Heroes can't use powers. Delightful. Much like the card that came out earlier, the hostage situation, I can get rid of this at the start of the environment turn by everyone discarding cards, or terraforming can get rid of it for me at the expense of playing more villain cards. Right after I finished explaining why I couldn't play cards. And then Twist the Ether goes away since what it was attached to was going away. And here comes another Electropulse Explosive. And the annoying component, the Interpolation Beam, it does heroes damage whenever they draw cards. And Technological Singularity, which destroys all equipment cards. Okay. Not my best turn. And kind of puts me in a tricky spot when it comes to dealing with the Electropulse Explosive. And this is not the ideal situation for a rampage, but it's still really important to get that Electropulse Explosive and Omnitron taking damage. So I'll go ahead and do that, and it'll hit everyone else for 2 as well. Yeah, we get to points where we have to make tough decisions like this in the game. And now I will hit Omnitron again to get rid of the Interpolation Beam so that everyone can draw cards without danger. Hitting the Electropulse Explosive might have been the better choice, but sometimes you just have to go by your hunch. And Foresight would let me manipulate the top of Visionary's deck instead of doing the draw and discard, but it has to be Visionary rather than anyone else. Mental Divergence deals with ongoings, but there aren't any dangerous ongoings out at the moment. Let's go with the Psychic Maelstrom to just do damage. Yes, and yes, you can do psychic damage to robots in this game. Kind of ironic, but there you go. And I think everyone's pretty well set up, so I'll go ahead and skip using Visionary's power. Smite the Transgressor isn't ideal at this point since I don't have another power I can use, but 2 damage is 2 damage, and that seems to be my best option to wear down the Electropulse Explosive as much as possible. Unfortunately, I don't have those Gene-Bound Shackles out anymore, so I won't be doing extra damage to Omnitron from the Electrical Storm. And can't make full use of it, but let's go with the Chain Lightning to just finish off the Electropulse Explosive. And fortunately, when you can only have hero targets left, it defaults to stop dealing damage when you have a choice about how many damage instances to do. You could have situations where it would be good to hit a hero, but not this time. And then let's go ahead and heal up. I probably could have done 1 damage, but and then Cramped Quarters Combat comes out again to boost damage. Nice. Okay, Automation Drone, which does damage equal to its hit points. And then he's on the side where he plays another card from his trash, which is the Railgun again. That's easy enough to get rid of. Wow, Visionary has the highest hit points. That doesn't happen very often. She's usually the squishy one. And let's go with Mare to be able to draw cards in addition to dealing damage. And I'll go ahead and focus on Omnitron since I can't destroy the other drone flat out. And then draw another card for the end of the turn. So, haven't really had an opportunity to use any of Haka's discard cards, but I think I have. Let's check to see if I have one in hand. No, I don't, so probably not going to be seeing that this game. Okay, and now Visionary has the lowest hit points, so Decoy Projection wouldn't be as useful. But the Railgun counts as an ongoing, so I can show you how Mental Divergence works. It actually has 2 separate things you can do with its power, either destroy an ongoing, or take an ongoing from the hero's trash and put it on top of their deck so they draw it their next turn. And I'll go with destroy the ongoing to get rid of the Railgun without having to do the damage, even though I will do enough damage. Cramped Quarters Combat is useful enough that there's no real point in getting rid of it before it goes away anyway, so I'll play Undaunted, which, if Fanatic's getting dealt exactly 1 damage, prevent that, or if she's getting dealt 5 or more damage, reduce it by 2, which would have come in handy earlier in the game with the original Electropulse Explosive. I know that Tempest can do 2 damage to the automation drone, but I'll go ahead and smash it with Fanatic instead so he can heal. Final Dive will be useful if I have any drones come out next turn. And here comes the Electrical Storm for 2. Oh yeah, Tempest could have flat out destroyed the other drone after all, but oh well, not a huge deal. I'll Lightning Slash Omnitron for 6 damage to get him down into the teens. And then might as well do 2 damage to him. This won't take much longer. Fanatic does have a variant, however, it just came out with Infernal Relics, and last time I checked, no one has figured out how to unlock it yet. Okay, Police Backup came out and did 1 damage to Omnitron, and now here comes his Adaptive Plating subroutine, which... oh, 2 of them. Okay, that's... well, two of them don't really stack all that well. These basically say once Omnitron has been done a certain type of damage, he becomes immune to that type of damage until he's dealt a different kind of damage. So it's a good thing that I don't have another melee damage focused character after Haka, for example, or say Wraith, who uses projectile damage, and Expatriate, who uses projectile damage back to back. That's another case where that Twist the Ether can come in handy, since you can choose which type of damage any character does. But at this point, let's just focus on finishing off Omnitron, and Haka will elbow smash for 3, and now Omnitron is immune to melee damage. Fortunately, I have Savage Mana that does toxic damage. And as you can see, the 3 cards that were under it were destroyed, and now he's doing 6 damage to Omnitron. Get him down to single digits and immune to toxic damage, which none of my other characters use, so not a problem there. And let's just go ahead and use Mind Spike and skip Visionary's power to go ahead and finish Omnitron off. This is another case where the fact that Fanatic does 1 each of 2 types of damage is useful. I wonder what happens if... Oh, Final Dive doesn't target character cards, so I can't use that to instantly destroy Omnitron. I know her power can finish him off, but let's go with finishing him with Smite the Transgressor instead. And since he doesn't have any other drones out, I win. As you can see, Omnitron plays quite a bit differently than Baron Blade. So you can see sort of the variety of games you could run into, and how each of them has their own strengths and weaknesses. Omnitron does a lot of ongoing and equipment destruction, while Baron Blade focuses more on trying to discard cards from his own deck and play more cards than the decks of others. So I'll see you next time for issue 3. Have a nice day.